location of your emergency?
Dr. Spitler calling from 3104 Churchview Drive in Valparaiso. My daughter has no pulse. It's a drug overdose.
Okay.
I need somebody here fast.
Okay, stay on the phone with me.
We can no longer say that heroin is a problem in Porter County. It's not a problem. It's an epidemic. Here in this jail, over 95% of the inmates have substance abuse problems. And in the last 2 years, we've had over 250 911 calls relating to drug overdoses. Who's bringing heroin into Porter County are our own kids, our own young adults. They're going into the south side of Chicago, they're buying the heroin and bringing it back. The kids from Couts, Hebron, Chesterton, Portage, Valparaiso, throughout Porter County, they're the ones going to Chicago, bringing it back. And when you do heroin, it's a choice. And people need to understand that choices have consequences. And if they do heroin, two things are going to happen. They're either going to die or they're going to go to jail.
My name is Herbert Steverson. I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana, and I'm currently incarcerated for Class D felony possession of a hypodermic needle. I was introduced to heroin through friends that I partied with. It started off socially using. It built from prescription pain medication abuse. Heroin is the most readily available drug, in my opinion and in my experience, in Porter County. Everybody knows somebody that can get it. I OD'd the first time driving around in a car with some friends, and luckily one of my friends was able to bring me back herself. The second time I OD'd, I fell out in my parents' bathroom. Ever since I was growing up, man, I was gonna be a baseball player. I was going to the league. It was my dream. It was #1 on my list. Baseball was my first love until I did drugs for the first time. If I could go back in time to the first time that I shot up, I would probably tell on myself. I would probably tell my parents, alert my coaches, alert my people, hey, this guy needs help.
My name is Christian Enyart. I went to Valparaiso High School. I've approximately been in jail about 17 times, in and out. I've been to the penitentiary, I've been to boys' schools, I've been to mental institutions, I've been all over the place. I was introduced to heroin when I was 17 years old by a woman. She had been introduced to painkillers, prescription medications, and she first introduced me to those with Vicodin and Percocets and all that. And then she brought around heroin, and I was interested. I was intrigued by that, and I was like, hey, I want to try that. And then push come to shove, and I was end up shooting up within 2 weeks. Like the sheriff said, it's an epidemic. It's taken over. Like I know people that when I was in high school, that I'd smoke weed with, and they'd be like, oh, I'd never do anything other than this. And half of them are dead now from heroin use, and the other half are still addicted right now. Now, if I had known exactly the outcome as of now, if I would know what the outcome was, I would say, I don't want to be there. I don't want to not have anything to my name. I want to be 23 years old, going to college and starting a career and my family, and who knows, maybe I'd already have a family, you know, and just looking back, I wish I could do that.
My name is Katie Hoekstra. I am 27 years old and I live in Valparaiso, Indiana. Been arrested 8 times, all drug related. I'm in jail this time because I overdosed and the Porter police came to my house. I've gotten away with a lot. I've come to jail many times and only had to sit a little bit or got bonded out, but this time I was sentenced to a year. Heroin is very easy to get in Porter County and in Valpo. It's normally just a phone call or a Facebook message away. My daughter was the one who saved my life one time from one of my overdoses when she was 3. She got in my phone and called the neighbor and said, my mommy's sleeping and won't wake up. It was never in my plans when I was a child. I got really good grades. I was athletic. I was prom queen. I was that person who was driven to do something and be somebody in life, not sitting in Porter County jail, watching my children grow up over visiting screens and pictures.
My name's Robert from Valparaiso. started using heroin at the age of 21.
I'm Bo. I'm from Valpo. I've been using drugs since I was 19.
My name's Don. I'm from Portage, Indiana, and I was 16 when I first tried heroin.
I'm Lindsay Stoffer. I graduated high school in 2009 from Valparaiso, and my drug of choice is heroin.
My name is Brandon. I'm from Chesterton, Indiana, and I was 17 years old when I started using heroin.
I'm Jeannie Fancher. I'm from Chesterton, and I was 15 when I first started using heroin.
My name is Justin McChristian. I graduated from Wheeler High School in 2002. I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana. I started using heroin at 16 years old.
My name's Tom. I'm from Valpo. Went to Valpo High School. My drug of choice is heroin.
My name is Dustin Sandberg. I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana, and I was 19 years old when I first shot up heroin.
My name is Brittany Byland. I graduated high school in 2007 from Washington Township, and I first used heroin in Chesterton.
My name is Lisa Ferry. I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana. I was 12 years old when I started using heroin.
I'm Nick. I'm from the Pines, and I was 18 when I first used heroin.
My name's Noah Beck. I live in South Haven here in Indiana. And my son Jared Noah Beck, died of an overdose of heroin. It's the worst thing in the world. I mean, to lose a child, you know, they're supposed to bury us. We're not supposed to bury them. Had it been a car accident or something like that, I think would have been more understanding, but knowing he was using drugs and knowing that there was a possibility that he could be one of the casualties in Porter County was horrible. The coroner said his time of death at approximately 10 p.m. I dropped him off at 2:30 that afternoon, and he was found the next day, which was my birthday. Not a day goes by that I don't think about him and what he would be now. You know, he'd be 34 years old now. And not a day goes by that I don't think about it.
I am Phyllis Spittler.
And I'm Man Spittler.
Amanda died right here in our home. She died in our bathroom upstairs in the bathtub.
She said she was going to go upstairs and she was going to take a warm bath and go to bed. And I knocked on the door and I screamed her name. I did this 3 times with no response, and then finally I opened the door and went in there. There were her drug works out on the countertop. Dr. Mazurik, a pulmonologist, a lung specialist, was in charge of her case. And I asked him, he said, why so much fluid in her lungs here? You can't get oxygen into someone's blood if the lungs are filling with water. And he said, uncertain cause unknown right now. But he says, we've got other things to do before we can address that fully. So after a while, I looked across the table from him and I said, if this were your daughter, what would you do?
As a parent, you always are afraid something bad is going to happen to your child, and you just push that as far back in your mind as you possibly can.
To try to circumvent Amanda's addiction, one of which would have been to actually put together a list of rules and expectations in written form and posted them here in the house with the consequences for having broken those rules and expectations, and then followed through with the consequences without fail.
I never, in my wildest dream, could imagine that she would die from a heroin overdose. I think if I had one thing to say to young people who are contemplating doing drugs, is to think long and hard about the consequences of what you're about to do. Not only are you going to be hurting yourself, but you are going to severely hurt the people who love you most.
My name is Chuck Harris. I'm the Porter County Coroner. We're right now in the Porter Regional Hospital morgue. This is where the autopsies are taken to be performed here in our county. We are one of the first responders to these scenes. We're the ones that see every overdose. There's not a police agency out there that goes to every single overdose scene. It's only the coroner's office that gets to see the full scope of the problem here in our county. We're going out to scenes in Valparaiso, Portage, Chesterton, Cowles, Hebron, Beverly Shores. We encompass all of Porter County. It's not just one little region. So that's the reason I think the coroner's office definitely sees the effects of how this impacts our community more than any other agency out there. We're at the county morgue right now. We're inside the cooler, and what we have here right next to me is what I suspect to be our latest heroin overdose. Is a young woman from Portage. What I can tell you is over the past 5 years, we've had 66 heroin-related deaths. That's specifically one drug. Heroin affects all people in our community. It has no socioeconomic ranges to it. It'll affect white people, black people, poor people, rich people, middle class. Every time we have one of these heroin or opiate-related deaths, I'm a family person. I've got a 13-year-old daughter and I've got a 9-year-old daughter. And every time that I go to one of these scenes, I'm always constantly reminded that, you know, this could be my kid laying on the table right here in front of us. Because as good of parents as we think that we are, this drug really affects everybody.
911.
Okay, I have a friend here. She's overdosed. 911.
I think I got an OD in the bathroom.
911.
I think my son might
911.
There's been an overdose.
We have an overdose.
Something wrong with my son. I don't know.
Okay.
My son is overdosed.
911.
911. 911. What's the location of your emergency?